Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Wanderer's Palace. This is a level 50 dungeon unlocked in Vesper Bay and is often used as a stepping stone to the rest of Endgame in Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Along with dropping the usual Allegan tokens, chests in this instance will also drop the broken weapons that are precursors to the Relic Reborn quest. As of the most recent hotfix, completing Wanderer's Palace also now awards players with 100 tomes of philosophy and 30 tomes of mythology, making this a great alternative to AK when farming. My name is Ms. Tech, and I'll be your dungeon guide. The first thing you'll notice about Wanderer's Palace are the creepy giant tonberries that stalk the halls, wielding the knife straight at a psycho. These serve as mini DPS checks for the instance, and should they catch up to your party, they'll horrifically murder the closest member right in front of your eyes. The small tonberries will drop lantern oil that you will use to access each section of the instance. The oil is used throughout the instance on rusted Nimian devices to open doors. The first boss is the Keeper of Halidom. Someone please get this guy a tissue because he will spend the entire encounter snorting and sneezing on people. Disgusting. He has a large frontal cone that will target a random party member. Be sure to avoid this. He will also throw out targeted AoE zones that players should move away from as much as possible. Healers keep an eye out for any debuffs to dispel, but other than that, it's a fairly straightforward fight. This next area of the dungeon has a couple of giant tonberries that patrol the halls. The group should keep an eye out for these and move to safe zones as much as possible. It's best not to remain in one static spot. Sooner or later you'll get attacked, so be as fluid with your positioning as possible. Don't forget to kill the tonberries for the oil. You'll have to lube up 4 rusted consoles before the door to the next area opens. The second boss is the giant Bavarois. This boss has 2 main mechanics that you should watch out for. The first, he will spawn a number of different colored adds that should be killed as soon as possible. The only one that is really a bother is the blue one that comes in the second spawn phase. The blue pudding will begin to heal the boss if not killed quickly. If your group damage is high enough, AoEing these down is sufficient. The second mechanic that everyone needs to look out for is his fixate. The boss will focus a random party member and begin to chase them. The player should kite the boss or risk getting their face smashed in. Note that the boss can be pushed back, so if you don't feel like running, use those buttons. Remember that if the boss is coming at you but your tank is still on top of that enmity meter, you should probably run. Keep an eye out here in this next section. The giant tonberry appears to spawn as soon as you enter, and there's not much room to work with. Keep on top of the DPS and keep moving forward as much as possible. It's probably best to prioritize killing the tonberries just to get access to the door. If you run out of the room, you can pull the rest of the trash inside the room, safe from the murderous tonberry. The last boss is the Tonberry King. This boss is quite challenging in comparison to the first 2 bosses, and full pug groups may have some trouble with it as it actually requires a little bit of coordination. Tanks should keep the king in the center of the room. As soon as you pull, you'll notice 2 adds spawn that slowly begin to walk to the center of the room. More and more adds will begin to spawn throughout the fight, and if your first instinct is to nuke these adds, you'd be half right. While it's important not to get overwhelmed by these adds, it's also extremely important to understand that each add killed puts a stacking buff on the king that increases the amount of damage he deals. The challenging aspect of this fight comes in balancing between killing adds and keeping the stack at a level that the healer and tank can manage and survive through. After a short time, the Tonberry King will release all of his grudge in a massive attack. The damage dealt depends on how many stacks he had at the time. The easiest way that we found to do this is to kill adds in groups of 3 to 4, wait for the king to burn his grudge, and then continue on killing another group of adds. If your tank has lower health, it might be better to kill even less. If the add should reach the Tonberry King before he is killed, they actually remove the stacks of grudge that he has on him. So you might think, no problem, we'll just kill 3, ignore the rest, blah blah blah, sounds easy. The problem is, once the adds reach the king and no longer have a purpose in life, they will activate, in a sense, and begin to follow basic enmity rules. In other words, they'll probably come after your healer. At this point, the DPS and healers might expect to have to start kiting adds around while the tank waits for the king to burn his grudge. Without any way to communicate all of this in a full pug group, you can start to see why this gets pretty crazy. Near the end of the fight, Tonberry slashers, similar to your friends that were stalking you throughout the instance, will spawn in a ring around the room. These will slowly move towards the center of the room and can and should be ignored. Be careful if you're kiting though. If you get too close to the slashers, they will aggro to you. Obviously, you're already dealing with enough stuff, so avoid these at all costs. Anytime you're not dealing with the adds, burn the boss. Obviously, this is the kind of boss that gets easier with more and more gear, but until then, make sure you remember not to kill too many tomberries. Unless you enjoy wiping. There you go, Wanderer's Palace. Now that this is another place to obtain tomes of mythology, you might be seeing more and more of this place. I'm not too sure how I feel about that yet. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.